The unexpected invasion. The skies darkened over Manhattan on an otherwise ordinary Tuesday morning. Massive obsidian structures, each the size of a small city, materialized in Earth's atmosphere above every major population center worldwide. Their surfaces rippled like oil on water, defying human understanding of solid matter. Traffic stopped. Pedestrians froze mid-stride, necks craned upward. Cell phones captured the moment humanity realized it was not alone in the universe. Fascinating, Dr. Elena Reyes whispered, watching the live feed from her laboratory at the Global Institute for Xenobiology. Despite having dedicated her career to studying theoretical alien biology, she never truly expected to witness first contact. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her glasses, dark eyes fixed on the monitor showing the enormous vessel hovering above New York City. The world held its collective breath for 3 days. The vessels remained stationary, silent sentinels watching from above. Then, on the 4th morning, they spoke. People of Earth, the message came simultaneously through every electronic device on the planet, translated into local languages with perfect accuracy. We are the Draxian Collective. We come in peace and mutual interest. We seek to exchange knowledge and establish diplomatic relations. Initial contact proceeded with cautious optimism. The Draxians shared limited technological knowledge, advancements in renewable energy and medical treatments for previously incurable diseases. World leaders met with Draxian representatives, humanoid beings with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with their emotions. Their ambassador, who called himself Nexer, spoke eloquently about interstellar cooperation and shared prosperity. Dr. Rice was among the scientists selected to participate in the knowledge exchange. While other researchers focused on Draxian technology, she became obsessed with understanding their biology. Something about their physiology struck her as fundamentally unusual, even for aliens. Their cellular structure contained elements not found on the periodic table, and their metabolism operated on principles that contradicted established biochemistry. These readings can't be right, she muttered to her assistant, Dr. Marcus Chen. As they analyzed tissue samples provided by the Draxians, their cells appear to reconfigure at the molecular level in response to environmental stimuli. It's unlike anything I've ever seen, even theoretically. Maybe that's how they survive interstellar travel, Chen suggested. Adaptive biology would be advantageous for spacefaring species. Elena shook her head. This goes beyond adaptation. It's almost as if. She stopped abruptly, her expression darkening. We need to run additional tests. Now, 87 days after first contact, humanity discovered the truth. The technological gifts from the Draxians contained microscopic bioengineered components, living technology that began integrating with Earth's infrastructure. Power grids, communication networks, water purification systems, all gradually came under Draxian control. When confronted, Ambassador Nexer's demeanor changed. His skin darkened to a deep crimson as he addressed the United Nations Security Council. Your planet's resources are too valuable to waste on a species as primitive as yours, he declared coldly. The Draxian Collective does not seek partnership. We seek acquisition. Your surrender will make this transition less painful. Within hours, the Draxian vessels shifted from passive observation to active aggression. Energy weapons carved smoldering craters where military bases once stood. Fighter jets launched counterattacks but disintegrated before they could approach the alien vessels. Nuclear missiles detonated harmlessly against Draxian shields. Humanity faced extinction. In her underground laboratory, protected by layers of concrete and lead shielding, Dr. Rice worked frantically. The tissue samples she'd been studying had revealed something crucial, something the Draxians had never intended humans to discover. Their entire biology is dependent on a specific type of microorganism, she explained to the Emergency Scientific Council, assembled via secure video link. World leaders and top scientists watched as she displayed microscopic images on their screens. These organisms function as both cellular mediators and immune system. Without them, Draxian physiology would collapse. "Are you suggesting we can target these microorganisms?" asked General Williams of the United States Joint Chiefs. Elena nodded grimly. "Yes, I've identified a compound that disrupts their reproductive cycle. In theory, it would cause cascading cellular failure in any Draxian exposed to it." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. "You're proposing biological warfare against an entire species," said Dr. Lakshmi Patel, head of the World Health Organization. "This goes against every international convention we've established." "They're actively exterminating us," General Williams countered. "Conventional ethics don't apply in extinction-level events." The debate raged for hours while Draxian attacks intensified across the globe. Cities burned. Civilian casualties mounted into the millions. Infrastructure crumbled as alien control tightened. Dr. Chen approached Elena during a brief recess. "Even if we decide to use this weapon, how would we deploy it? Their ships are impenetrable." Elena closed her eyes momentarily, the weight of countless lives pressing down on her shoulders. "Their biology requires them to extract certain minerals from our atmosphere. Their ships have intake vents that process our air. If we could introduce the compound into their ventilation system, that would mean a suicide mission." Chen replied, voice barely above a whisper. "Not necessarily," came a voice from the doorway. Colonel Sofia Vega stood there, her uniform dusty from recent combat. "My team specializes in impossible insertions. Give us the weapon, and we'll deliver it." 3 days later, as Melbourne burned and Beijing lay in ruins, the Emergency Council made its decision. Dr. Raya's compound, now code-named Nightfall, would be weaponized and deployed against the Draxian fleet. Elena worked without sleep, refining the formula to maximize its effectiveness, while ensuring it would have no impact on Earth's ecosystem. The ethical implications haunted her every moment. She was developing a weapon that would cause a painful cellular death for an entire species. Yet when she closed her eyes, she saw the smoldering remains of cities, the countless human lives already lost. "We're ready," she finally announced, holding up a container of clear liquid. "The compound is stable and can be aerosolized. Once it enters their ventilation system, it will spread throughout their entire ship. The effects should manifest within hours." Colonel Vega assembled a 12-person strike team, elite soldiers from various nations, each with specialized skills. Their mission was considered a one-way trip. They would attempt to infiltrate the Draxian mothership hovering over the ruins of Geneva, deliver Nightfall into the vessel's ventilation system, and transmit confirmation before inevitable capture or death. The night before deployment, Elena approached the team's barracks. She found them quietly preparing their equipment, checking weapons they knew would likely prove useless against Draxian technology. "I wanted to thank you," she said, her voice breaking slightly. "What you're doing tomorrow is necessary." Colonel Vega finished for her. "We all volunteered knowing the odds." A young soldier with the British flag on his shoulder looked up. "Just tell me something, Doctor. Will this actually work, or are we dying for nothing?" Elena met his gaze steadily. "The science is sound, but there are always unknown variables when dealing with alien biology. What I can promise is that this represents humanity's best chance." He nodded, seemingly satisfied, and returned to cleaning his rifle. As Elena turned to leave, Colonel Vega followed her into the hallway. "There's something you're not telling the others," she said quietly. Elena hesitated, then nodded. "If Nightfall works as designed, it won't just affect the Draxians on the ships. Any Draxian biological technology already integrated into our infrastructure will also break down. The resulting failures could cause additional casualties. More than if we do nothing." "No," Elena replied firmly. "Not even close." The colonel nodded. "Then we proceed as planned. 0 hours 400. Get some rest, Doctor. Tomorrow, we find out if humanity survives." As Elena walked away, the weight of tomorrow's actions pressed down on her. She had created humanity's darkest weapon, one that could save their species or condemn them as genocidal in the annals of cosmic history. Either way, after tomorrow, nothing would ever be the same. Humanity's darkest weapon. Dawn broke crimson over the Alps as the stealth dropship carrying Colonel Vega's team approached the Draxian mothership. The vessel, a modified prototype never meant for combat deployment, moved silently through cloud cover, its experimental cloaking technology their only defense against advanced alien sensors. 2 minutes to insertion point, the pilot announced, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Thermal scans show an atmospheric processing vent at the coordinates Dr. Rice provided. In the cargo hold, 12 soldiers performed final equipment checks. They wore lightweight tactical gear, sacrificing protection for mobility. Each carried the standard-issue sidearm, though everyone understood these weapons would likely prove useless. Their primary objective hung in a specialized containment unit strapped to Colonel Vega's back. 3 liters of nightfall, enough to contaminate the entire mothership's ventilation system. Remember, Vega addressed her multinational team. This isn't about fighting. It's about delivery. We get in, deploy the package, and transmit confirmation. Anything beyond that is a bonus. Private James Okonkwo, their communications specialist, nodded grimly. The signal will reach the bunker even if we don't make it back. Approaching insertion point, the pilot called. Atmospheric turbulence detected around the vent. Hang on. The dropship lurched violently as invisible energy currents buffeted its frame. Through the viewport, they glimpsed their target, a massive circular opening in the mothership's obsidian hull, pulsing with otherworldly light as it processed Earth's atmosphere. "We can't get any closer," the pilot shouted over sudden alarms. "You'll have to jump." "Go, go, go," Vega ordered, as the cargo bay door opened to reveal a 100-meter gap between them and the vent. One by one, the soldiers activated their experimental jump packs. Another untested technology rushed into production. They leaped into the void, propulsion units burning precious fuel to guide them toward the narrow target. 2 soldiers miscalculated, missing the vent entirely and plummeting into the darkness below. The remaining 10, including Vega, made it inside. They landed in a cavernous chamber filled with pulsating organic machinery, tubes, sacs, and membrane-like structures processing atmosphere into compounds the Draxians required. The air felt thick and humid, carrying an alien scent like ozone and something sickeningly sweet. "Masks on," Vega ordered, securing her own breathing apparatus. "We don't know what's in this air." Their intelligence had been correct. No Draxian guards patrolled this automated section. The aliens likely never imagined humans could reach this area, let alone penetrate it. The team moved quickly through the organic machinery, following the central ventilation duct toward the ship's core. "Colonel," Lieutenant Java whispered, pointing ahead. Movement. Something was approaching. Not Draxians, but floating spherical drones that pulsed with the same bioluminescent light as the ship's interior. The team pressed into shadows as the drones passed, scanning methodically. "Maintenance units," Sergeant Rodriguez suggested, "not security." They proceeded deeper, entering a network of tunnels that seemed to breathe, walls contracting and expanding in rhythmic patterns. The architecture defied human engineering principles. No straight lines, no right angles, just organic curves and asymmetrical chambers. After an hour of careful navigation, they reached a junction where 7 tunnels converge. According to Dr. Rice's theoretical map based on atmospheric circulation patterns, this should be the central distribution hub for the ship's air supply. "This is it," Vega announced, carefully removing the nightfall container from her pack. Rodriguez, Zhang, set up the aerosol dispersal unit. Okonkwo prepared the transmission. As they worked, Private Yusuf approached from one of the adjoining tunnels where he'd been standing guard. "Colonel, you need to see this." Leaving the others to prepare nightfall, Vega followed Yusuf down the tunnel. It opened into a vast chamber filled with transparent pods, hundreds of them, each containing a human body suspended in luminescent fluid. My God, Vega breathed. The captives appeared alive but unconscious, tubes and filaments penetrating their bodies at various points. They're experimenting on them, or harvesting something, Yusuf suggested, his voice tight. I recognized some of them from news reports. People reported missing since the invasion began. Vega studied the nearest pod, containing a young woman whose cellular structure seemed to be slowly breaking down, her tissues becoming transparent in patches. Data in an alien script scrolled across the pod's surface. We need to help them, Yusuf urged. Our mission is nightfall, Vega reminded him, though the words tasted bitter. We don't have the capacity to rescue hundreds of prisoners. Colonel, Rodriguez's voice came urgently through their comms. We've got company. They rushed back to find the rest of the team in defensive positions. 3 Draxians had entered the junction chamber through another tunnel. Unlike the diplomatic representatives humans had encountered, these aliens moved with predatory grace, their iridescent skin shifting to camouflage with their surroundings. They carried no visible weapons, but their elongated limbs ended in razor-sharp appendages. Hold fire, Vega ordered quietly. We can't risk damaging the dispersal unit. Too late. One of the Draxians detected them, its head swiveling unnaturally. It emitted a high-pitched sound that made the human's teeth vibrate painfully. The other Draxians immediately turned toward the team's position. Nightfall status, Vega demanded. 60 seconds to dispersal, Rodriguez replied. Cover them, Vega ordered as the Draxians advanced. The team opened fire, conventional bullets seeming to pass through the aliens' shifting forms with minimal effect. One soldier deployed a sound-based weapon, an experimental device designed based on observed Draxian sensitivities. The aliens recoiled momentarily, their skin rippling in apparent distress. 30 seconds, Rodriguez called. 2 Draxians recovered and leaped with impossible speed. One impaled Private Yusuf through the chest. The other grappled with Lieutenant Zhao, its form seeming to partially envelop her as she screamed. Dispersal unit ready, Rodriguez shouted. Activated, Vega ordered, firing her weapon at the 3rd Draxian as it approached. Rodriguez slammed his palm onto the activation control. The unit hummed to life, releasing a fine mist of nightfall into the junction. The effect on the Draxians was immediate and horrifying. Their forms began to lose cohesion, skin bubbling, and sloughing off in liquefied sheets. They emitted frequencies beyond human hearing range, but the vibrations were powerful enough to crack the organic walls around them. Confirmation signal sent, Okonkwo reported as the Draxians collapsed into puddles of dissolving biomatter. The ship itself seemed to respond to the attack. Alarm pulses of red light flashed through the tunnels. The walls contracted violently, nearly crushing several team members. The ship is alive, Vega realized. It's reacting to nightfall. We need to move, Rodriguez urged as the ceiling began to secrete a caustic fluid. This entire section is going into some kind of immune response. They retreated through the tunnels as nightfall spread through the ventilation system. Throughout the ship, they glimpsed the compound's effects. Draxian crew members dissolving, biological technology breaking down, ship systems failing. The vessel itself seemed to be in agony, shuddering and contracting around them. The prisoner chamber, Vega remembered suddenly. If nightfall affects all Draxian biological technology, the pods will fail, Zhou finished, clutching her injured arm where the Draxian had touched her. There's nothing we can do for them now, Rodriguez said grimly. We need to find an escape route. They fought their way toward the atmospheric processing vent where they had entered, losing 3 more soldiers to the ship's increasingly violent contractions and defense mechanisms. The remaining 5, Vega, Rodriguez, Okonkwo, Zhang, and Zhao, finally reached the vent, now spasming erratically as the ship's systems failed. No way we're getting a pickup here, Okonkwo observed, watching the vent opening constrict and dilate unpredictably. Vega spotted an alternative, what appeared to be launch tubes for the small scout vessels they had occasionally observed leaving the mothership. There, she pointed. Those have to lead outside. They sprinted toward the tubes as the ship's internal structure continued to dissolve around them. Reaching the launch area, they found several organic pods that seemed designed for individual Draxian transport. "Can we operate these?" Zhang asked, studying the unfamiliar controls. Before anyone could answer, the mothership lurched violently. Through a viewing membrane, they watched in astonishment as other Draxian vessels began to falter across the sky. Nightfall had spread beyond the mothership, transmitted through the aliens' quantum communication network, a possibility Dr. Reyes had theorized but couldn't confirm. "It's working globally," Vega realized. "Their entire fleet is affected." They managed to activate one of the transport pods, crowding inside as the mothership began its catastrophic descent toward Lake Geneva. The pod ejected automatically as part of the ship's failing emergency protocols, shooting them clear of the disintegrating vessel. As they spiraled toward Earth, they witnessed the end of the Draxian invasion. Massive ships fell from the sky worldwide, their biological technology rendered inert by nightfall. Some crashed into uninhabited areas, others into the oceans. A few, despite humanity's best efforts to direct their descent, struck population centers, adding to the war's already staggering death toll. The transport pod crashed roughly but survivably in the French countryside. Hours later, military vehicles retrieved the surviving team members, now heroes of a desperate victory. 1 week after what became known as the Nightfall deployment, Dr. Elena Reyes stood at the window of the emergency United Nations session in Zurich, watching cleanup crews process the remains of a Draxian scout ship. The compound she had created had worked more effectively than anyone could have predicted, spreading through the aliens' quantum network to reach every Draxian vessel in Earth's orbit and atmosphere. "The final death toll estimates are in," General Williams said, joining her at the window. "Between the initial invasion and the falling ships, we lost nearly 400 million people worldwide." Elena closed her eyes briefly. "And the Draxians?" "Total extinction of their forces on and around Earth. We're still studying their remains, but essentially, you wiped them out completely." The word hung heavily between them. Before they dissolved, the Draxians managed to transmit a signal. Williams continued. "Our analysts believe it was directed toward their home world. A warning, most likely. Then they'll return," Elena said quietly. "And next time, they'll be prepared for nightfall." Williams nodded grimly. "The Security Council has authorized unlimited funding for defense research. Your department will lead the effort." That evening, Elena sat alone in her lab, examining Draxian cellular samples, all dead now, their once miraculous structure reduced to inert organic material. On her computer, simulations ran possible modifications the aliens might make to counter nightfall. Humanity had won this battle through desperation and the enemy's overconfidence, but the war had likely just begun. Colonel Vega entered without knocking, still walking with the aid of a cane from injuries sustained during their escape. "The recording devices are off," she said without preamble. "What I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room." Elena looked up, instantly alert. "During the mission, we found human prisoners," Vega continued. "Hundreds of them, being experimented on. Before we deployed Nightfall, I downloaded this from one of their data terminals." She placed a small device on Elena's desk. "Our cryptographers managed to decode portions of it." Elena activated the device, displaying incomprehensible alien script that gradually transformed into English. "Project Ascension," the translated text read. "Human genetic modification trials proceeding as planned. Subjects is Seshovu promising adaptation to DDRAXIAN cellular integration. Project timeline to viable hybrid creation. 12 solar cells." "They weren't just invading," Elena whispered, the implications dawning on her. "They were trying to create hybrids. But why?" "The last page might explain," Vega replied grimly. "It mentions something called the Scourge, apparently an enemy the Draxians themselves are fleeing from, something even they fear. Elena stared at the data, a chill running down her spine. So we've announced our presence to the galaxy by destroying a species that might have been running from something worse. We did what was necessary to survive, Vega said firmly. But now we need to prepare for what comes next. Elena turned back to her simulations with renewed purpose. Humanity had survived its first interstellar conflict by creating its darkest weapon, a biological agent that had saved their civilization, but marked them as a species willing to employ extinction-level countermeasures. The ethical implications would be debated for generations, but the immediate reality was clear. Earth was now a known quantity in the cosmos, and they had made a fearsome first impression. Whatever came next, whether Draxian survivors seeking revenge or this mysterious scourge, humanity would be ready. They had proven that even against seemingly insurmountable technological advantages, human ingenuity, determination, and the will to survive could prevail. For better or worse, the rest of the galaxy now knew Earth was not defenseless after all.